Engaging, an in-depth look at issues of interest to the citizens of North and South Carolina. From the WJZY studios, it's Charlotte Now with Mike Collins.
Good evening. Washington has always been synonymous with politics, and that politics has usually been rough and tumble. But today, it seems much more brutal. Both parties butt heads on almost every single issue. Compromise appears impossible, with neither side willing to consider the other's point of view. This has all led to colossal and often embarrassing gridlock, and to congressional and approval ratings that are among the lowest in history. But perhaps frustrated citizens will soon have something to be pleased about. In February, a group of freshman congressmen formed the United Solutions Caucus to encourage both parties to work together to find long-term solutions to some of our most trying problems. The caucus is the brainchild of North Carolina 9th District Republican Congressman Robert Pittenger and a Democratic colleague from Florida. If you followed Congressman Pittenger's political career, this move might surprise you, but he says it fits into his personal philosophy that there is some good in everybody and that you don't have to give up your principles to be friends. He wants to humanize the halls of Congress and believes this is a good way to start. Robert Pittenger joins us to talk about the mission of his United Solutions Caucus and about reaching across the aisle when we come back.
The city.
July in New York, the killing gets easy.
The suspects.
Here, let me help you focus. We're gonna get you.
The cases.
Second shot is a message.
Every crime has a story.
I did it!
5 times a week, justice is in order.
Drop that gun!
Law and Order, Criminal Intent.
CW46 weeknights. More laughs, more groove, more teeth. Get more at 4 with Steve Hart. Weekdays at 4 on CW46.
I have evidence that proves my dad's a space alien. Speaks a weird language. Drinks green stuff. He says he's from Albuquerque. I'm not buying it. I mean, just look at him. And one more thing. He has a spaceship. The evidence doesn't lie. My dad is an alien.
The highly advanced Audi A6, named to car and drivers 10 best. Experience exceptional value on the Audi A6 at your local dealer today.
Every hero needs a sidekick. So what do you want with your fries? Right now, get 2 6-piece chicken McNuggets or 2 large fries or 1 of each for just $3. More iconic taste to love.
Times were simpler back when. Life seemed richer. Sapphire skies, strolls along the beach, the distinctive sound of waves crashing on the shore. Times may have changed, but the joys of breathing the ocean's fresh, salty air or gazing at the sky's majestic colors at sunset are still available each and every day. Make time to get together and share life's special moments. Your memories begin at visitmyrtlebeach.com.
The new season of '06 will be Sit-sational. Sit.
Season premiere Monday, April 15th.
Robert Pittenger is North Carolina's new 9th District Congressman. He took over in January from Sue Myrick, who was there for what seemed like forever. So he's been there for 3 months now, and he joins us now to talk about a number of things, including the United Solutions Caucus that you formed with a colleague from Florida. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike. Good to be with you.
Before we talk about the caucus, which is unique, let's talk about your impressions of Congress, because I know you were in the state legislature and you've done things before that, but being in Congress is a whole different ball of wax. What's it been like?
Sure. I mean, it's pretty intense. I'm up, leave my condo, have about a 1-bedroom condo, about 3 blocks from the Capitol, and leave there at 5:40 every morning. But I get home about 9:30 or 10 every night, and you don't stop. It's a very fulfilling. I enjoy it. But I think, frankly, my impression of the Congress is that I really couldn't believe the caliber of people who are there. We have some very capable people in our conference that I've really grown to respect, who are, of course, concerned about where our country's headed, but bright people. I serve, as you may know, on the Financial Services Committee, and which is, I felt, important for our region, and why I worked real hard to get on that committee. But there's some extremely bright people.
I mean, you had experience in the legislature, so you know what it's like to be in a deliberative body. But can anything really prepare you for what hits you in the face when you walk up on Capitol Hill and you're the guy?
It's a fire hydrant. It really is.
What's that mean?
A lot coming out quick.
Okay.
You better be ready.
You got to catch up, do a lot of catching up, I would think.
Absolutely. We had probably 5 conferences before we got there that were bipartisan conferences, and which tried to prepare you some, but there's so much information. I remember the chairman of Financial Services, Jeb Hinchley, a very capable person. He gave me a manual about that thick. And I saw him a couple of days later on the House floor, and I said, "Chairman, I want you to know that I memorized your manual." He said, "You did?" I said, "Well, no, but I did call 5 attorneys to explain it to me."
It's given you a chance to do things that probably you've never gotten the chance to do. You come back home a lot, as congressmen do, because they want to be with their constituents and help to raise money, I suppose. But you just came back from a citizenship naturalization ceremony.
Well, very meaningful experience, very touching. There were 51 individuals who were naturalized, who became U.S. citizens, and they came from all over the world. It was absolutely the most moving, touching moment.
While you're talking about this, we have a couple of photographs of you in the judges' chambers where this took place. Where do the folks come from? Is it just one part of the world, or is it all over the place?
Oh, Chile, Serbia, Iran, China, Russia, Laos, Vietnam, Honduras. I couldn't believe it, because when they would come up, I said, "Where are you from?" And they would tell me. I said, "Welcome, we're just so glad you're here."
The 2 people that we saw in the pictures, that gentleman that was just there a second ago and the young girl who was there, are both very young. And we hear that one of the problems with our immigration system, that it's broken because people wait forever to get into the country legally. That's why they come in illegally. They're young. How long do they have to wait?
I'm not sure of the process time. I think they're pretty deliberate, of course, and who comes in, so they can check all of that. But the process, we work through about 12,000 people in North Carolina that come in and are naturalized, either in Raleigh or here in Charlotte.
I want to talk about your invention, the United Solutions Caucus, which is a unique thing. You got together with a Democrat from Florida, Congressman Murphy, and have put this together in an effort to be bipartisan. Now, that's not a word we hear very often anymore. We hear it. We hear a lot of lip service to it. We don't see a lot of action on it, and this is actionable.
Well, frankly, it was a natural byproduct of some relationships that we built. As I mentioned, we had 4 or 5 of these conferences. We had 2 in Washington, a week long. And then we went up to Harvard. We went down to Williamsburg, and then another one back in Washington. And we had speakers, I mean, very prominent people, economists and others, who would come and apprise us of different issues. And through this time, I mean, you're having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with these individuals. There's 84 new members. About 50 of them are Democrats, and the balance Republicans. So you spend a lot of time together. Well, they're real people. And you build relationships. And certainly you have differences, and you respect each other's differences. So I'm not under some erroneous idea that all of a sudden we're going to kumbaya and everybody's going to agree to everything. But out of it, you know, we all have a shared concern for the future of the country. And we want to see what we can do in common ground to try to address some of these problems.
This seems to be a shift in approach. I think the class before yours, which I guess could be called the Tea Party class, I'm not sure, was a group of people who were elected to do a job. They saw it as something that they were brought to Washington to do, not to budge on their principles, because things had to get done in a certain way, and by God, that's what's going to happen. You're coming in, and you're hobnobbing with Democrats from across the aisle. You formed a caucus with the Democrat. In the caucus, there are Democrats and Republicans, and the whole idea is to come together to discuss solutions, long-term solutions, to the major problems that we face. But to do that, and to do it successfully, it seems to me, you have to be willing, not only you, but everybody in this caucus and everybody in the Congress ultimately, to compromise. Is compromise not a bad word?
Let me tell you what happened. We had heard a series of speakers up at Harvard and in Washington. We were down in Williamsburg, and one of our speakers was Peter Orszag. He was the budget writer for Mr. Obama his first 4 years. And Mr. Orszag spoke and really put on the table in the most serious way the critical nature of our debt, approaching now $17 trillion. He said, you know, you have to be serious. This is the elephant in the room. You have to address this debt. And to address it, you have to look at entitlements, because unless they're restructured, Medicare, for example, was going to be insolvent by 2024. So these are real numbers. Numbers don't lie. And out of that, we all begin to realize this is serious business. We need to figure out solutions that we can come up with together. And that's what caused the letter to the president and a letter to the congressional leadership that the 35 of us signed.
35 members of your Congress signed this letter urging the president and the leadership in the House and Senate to work together.
Imploring them.
You sent it to Speaker Boehner. You sent it to Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. You sent it to the president. What reaction? Harry Reid in the Senate. What reaction did you get?
We have had indirect discussions. We have not had a formal response in terms of a letter. I would like for the president to respond back. You know, it was some discouragement to me that as prominent as this issue is, that the president did not address it in the State of the Union. He didn't address it in his inauguration. And frankly, that concern was shared with members of the other side of the aisle as well. They see this as a major concern. John
Boehner is in your party. Did he respond to the letter?
We have had verbal discussions. We haven't had a, he recognized it, and the debt is on his radar screen.
And Nancy Pelosi, obviously, is a Democrat, and you have a Democrat as a co-founder of this caucus. Did he receive any kind of communication from her?
Not that I'm aware of.
Does that surprise you? Does it disappoint you? Does it make you angry?
No. I think what you have to realize is we're there, we're beginning something. You know, it's inertia. Starting anything takes effort, takes time to build momentum. And the more this caucus works together, we've set up 5 task forces and to look at other issues, whether it's energy or immigration or whatever. This group is, you know, we're just 3 months into it. And I think people want to see how serious we are and how committed we are to our objectives.
I think you said there were 84 members of the freshman class in Congress. There are 35?
35 initially.
Members of the caucus. Most of them are Republicans. More Republicans than Democrats.
I'd say it's about a third, 2/3.
So what's wrong with the Democrats? Why aren't they signing up?
Well, I'm proud of those who did. And I welcome those who want to. And I think that caucus will grow over time on both parties.
Everybody in Washington has got to know the problems that you have been told about are critical. The debt, saving Social Security or shoring it up, making it better, Medicare, streamlining government. Everybody knows this, but nobody's working toward it, or at least it seems that way to those of us who are not in Washington. There are 35 of you in the House of Representatives in the freshman class working to get that message out. Why do you get it and they don't, the others? Why are you willing to work together when they don't seem to be willing to work together?
Well, I think it has to be on the radar screen of the leadership. They have to be talking about it. And if they're not going to talk about it, well, we're going to start talking about it. And from our humble we don't have the megaphone that the president has, but we certainly did discuss this with him when he came to speak to our Republican conference 2 weeks ago. That's why we're pushing it. We've got to get on the radar screen. You know, we're straightening pictures while the house is burning down.
Yeah, the news media made a big deal of the president coming to Capitol Hill. It hasn't happened often in the Obama administration. I don't know that it's happened a lot. I don't know that presidents go to Capitol Hill a lot. They summon Capitol Hill to the White House a lot. What was that like? What happened in that meeting? How much of that can you share?
We met an hour and a half, and Mr. Obama shared his commitments and his principles. I would say that there's a wide margin. He's in terms of our views. He said, for example, that balancing a budget is not important to him. Well, to me, that's fundamental. I think you've got to get your fiscal house in order, and we can't keep going on the trajectory that we're on. That's what his financial man, Mr. Orszag, said. You can't continue on that trajectory. So I think there was a disconnect there in terms of what we need to be doing. And there were some really good comments and respectfully said. And when he walked in the room, we stood, we clapped. He's President of the United States. It was a very respectful meeting, and we treated him as such. But I think there was an honest discourse that it shows that where we are in terms of trying to bring some fiscal discipline to how we govern.
North Carolina's 9th Congressional District Congressman Robert Pittenger, our guest tonight. We're talking about his new caucus, the United Solutions Caucus, attempting to bring bipartisan support to long-term decisions. And we'll continue in just a moment. Stay with us.
Problem gap.
We're back with Congressman Robert Pittenger from the North Carolina 9th Congressional District, the co-founder of the United Solutions Caucus, along with Representative Murphy, whose first name eludes me at the moment. Patrick Murphy from Florida. It's a caucus designed to bring Democrats and Republicans together to work together on the long-term problems that the country faces. You just mentioned that you met with the president, the Republicans met with the president on Capitol Hill a couple of weeks ago, and that there was some divergence of opinion on what was important and what was not important. But you also say that within the Congress, or at least within the freshman class, Democrats and Republicans agree on about 80% of the material that you're dealing with. Well,
in great measure. Number one, we agree on the issue at hand. We are focused on the major issues of the debt and saving Medicare and Social Security that are financially going to go without the funding that they require unless they're restructured. So we agree in those principles, and we are now looking at different options and opportunities of how they can be preserved and restructured.
Why is it then, if you agree on 80% of the stuff, that we sit here at home and watch the television news and see you doing this? Not you, but the Congress and the President, Democrats and Republicans, doing that with no attempt to move a nano-inch in either direction?
Well, I think, again, you had to go back to basic philosophies. We did our budget, and we were able to pass a bill that said no budget, no pay, that frankly required the Senate, the first time in 4 years that they've written a budget. And we want them to be accountable. What do you really believe? You got to go vote and put your name on the line. And it happened that they came up with a budget that had $1 trillion more in spending and that much more in tax burden. We want the American people to see that and to see what the American people want. And I think the more the American people are engaged in this, that's important. And they need to be a part of this process and this dialogue.
Congressional approval is at an all-time low, and the president's approval rating, which was high after the inauguration, has begun to slip. Why? Why is approval so low? Do you understand it? Do your fellow congresspeople understand it? Are you working on changing that, and what will it take to change that?
Well, of course, the Congress has a minimal megaphone. They have the minimal ability to go out and tell their message. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on this show with you, to be able to share why I'm there and what I think some reasonable solutions are for the future. But, you know, we have to look at ways that we can communicate better and for the people to understand it. I can understand I'd be mad too at the Congress because they haven't resolved the problems. And people are not happy. They're not happy, frankly, with the Affordable Care Act. The favorabilities of that bill is very low right now.
Is that partly because no one knows what it really has in it?
I think it's part of that.
It hasn't rolled out in full yet?
Yeah, I think it's part. But I think part of it, Mike, is it's become unraveled in terms of what's in it. There's about 7 million people right now already that are not going to be able to keep their personal plan. If you recall...
Do we know that for a fact, or do we anticipate that?
No, anticipated is about 20 million that we think are not. Because if you change one factor, one item in your personal plan, because you have to make an adjustment, then that disqualifies the entire plan.
Well, this is a good thing to talk about, because I know that you want to come together and you want to reach compromise on the grand issues, and gosh knows that's a grand issue. And yet Republicans have said repeatedly that they want to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which is known as Obamacare in some circles, even as the Supreme Court has said it's legal.
Sure, I agree.
Which should have decided it once and for all, one would have presumed, but it obviously didn't.
Well, you may be aware that I hosted an event about a month ago out at the Harris Center for CPCC. We had 400 people there, business leaders, and had two people that came in, one from AARP and one of them from a think tank in Washington, to explain it. Not to debate it, but to explain it so people really know what's there. And it was an amazing event, because the concern, frankly, was elevated as people learn more and more about the bill. That's the problem. People really don't understand it, and they're beginning to understand it today.
And a lot of misinformation and disinformation was thrown out there in the course of the last several years. But if it were to go away, if Republicans were successful in repealing it, or if we find out once it is implemented that it is a dragon in the room that we need to get rid of, what's the solution? Because the attempt was to get a handle on medical costs, which are going to bankrupt the country if we don't get a handle on them. So what's the solution? What would you replace it with?
Who carries your insurance?
Blue Cross Blue Shield.
And you ask that to 90% of the people in the state, that's what they'll say. We need more competition in the market. And we have not had interstate competition. That would be a major factor. There's probably 100 companies who would come in the state if we had the ability to do that.
What about giving the government permission to Medicare negotiate prices, which they cannot do at the moment, which just seems ridiculous. The government is the largest supplier of medical insurance in the country already. Why can't they negotiate what they'll pay, or what things will cost?
If you're going to do that, then let's say, why not let the free market run its course and allow
Isn't that part of the free market negotiation?
Yeah, but I'm saying let's bring the entire free market in the process. Yeah, let the government can negotiate, but let's bring the whole free market in the process and let other providers out there compete. And I think that's where we lost. I really do. I think time will tell what'll happen, but right now the cost, we were told, would be revenue neutral. CBO has come out, the Congressional Budget Office, saying it's about $1.8 trillion in new costs. Medicare
is one of the things that your caucus wants to shore up and improve to make sure that it's here for people in the future.
Everybody should want
Social Security is another. You also want to cut spending, and this is where we get into a sticky wicket, because people have been asked across this country by news organizations, what should we cut? And they'll say, well, spending too much money, we got to cut. Should we cut defense? No. Should we cut Social Security? No. Should we cut veterans benefits? No. Should we cut Medicare? No. So what is left to cut?
Sure.
And you want to cut spending?
Well, I mean, that's a reasonable question. I think you have to go make your case for why it has to be done, and then what should be done. If you don't restructure, as Peter Orszag said, Mr. Obama's budget writer, if you don't restructure, just stand alone Medicare, leave the debt deficit alone. If you don't restructure that, you're going to lose it. It's not going to be there 10 years from now for all seniors. So there's other opportunities to find savings. I was a part of that, as you may recall, in the state legislature. I identified $1.4 billion in savings. I worked with a major national accounting firm. We presented this to Speaker Black and other leadership. They didn't disqualify $1 that we presented. In fact, they came back to me and said, Robert, we need to begin over here at HHS. We have Health and Human Services. We have multiple layers of delivery systems, offices, people, vans, whatever. It's duplicative. And we have take that out to the federal government. I've told the Speaker I want to be a part of something like a Grace Commission. We need to overhaul the entire government. We have more duplication. There's 80 separate welfare programs that spend $900 billion coming from 5 departments.
But when you start talking about taking things apart like that, have a Grace Commission come in and say, make recommendations, and then actually do it, which we didn't do last time.
This is legislation.
Then you're opening Pandora's box, because there are going to be unintended consequences. People will lose jobs, unemployment will increase, things will change the way we do things. You talk about the Health Care Act changing things, that would change things. Tax reform, which is what you want to do also, would also change things. So how do you do things in a way that is not going to be detrimental to the country at some point in time to somebody?
If you have a cavity, you get somebody a cavity board, you drill the cavity.
You drill the cavity.
You drill the cavity. We need to have the guts and the courage and the commitment to drill the cavity, not just be giving out candy bars.
And to do that, you really do have to have bipartisan support. This coalition, one of the things you talk about is that you want to get to know the other side, that you can see them as a friend. One of your friends is Joe Kennedy, who's one of the big liberals in Congress, but he's a personal friend.
He is. We're good buddies.
Does that help?
Sure, it helps, because there's ways that you can work together with somebody. There may be some legislation that you can sit down. Joe asked me to sit next to him during the State of the Union, and I said, sure, I will. Sit over there in the middle of the Democrats, and didn't stand all the time that Joe stood, but, you know, happy for him. He had a St. Patrick's Day party. I sure came to it. We're going to be friends. We're talking a lot about tax policy right now. I won't go into all that, but he's asking, he wants a pro-growth policy, and he sees what's happened in many states, including his own, that aren't growing, and yet they've raised the tax burden.
We're going to keep our eye on this United Solutions Caucus. It's a Democratic-Republican, Republican-Democratic effort to get together, and it's the brainchild of our guest today, Robert Pittenger from the 9th Congressional District in North Carolina. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
It was really a great time being with you.
Good luck with it. Thank you for watching. Join us again next time, and you can get more information, or you can send us your opinions at charlottenow@cw46.tv. See you next week.